Welcome to Fargo Talks Fargo, an unofficial podcast on the FX television series. Fargo Talks Fargo is hosted by me, Bill, and my buddy Sharpie. This season of Fargo Talks Fargo is sponsored by the Fargo Brewing Company and their Wood Chipper IPA. Also, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Tune in later to find out more about how you can get a free Audible.com trial because it's awesome and listening to books is the way to go. Boom. Here we are, Sharpie.
I like this.
Hot Dish 1 down. Hot Dish 1 is down.
Yep.
Whole episode thing is down. And today, we had an emergency substitution because Joe Riley got himself the sickness.
Yep.
Standing
Joe
in.
Riley.
Yep. Standing in from last season, once again, from the Forum of Fargo Moorhead, John Lamb.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, Podcast Nation.
My favorite part is that he just waved.
Exactly. I've not only got a face for it, I've got a mind for it.
Oh, it's pretty epic. It's pretty epic. I like it. I don't care. So, Sharpie, you've slept on it. What do you think?
Yep. I slept on it. I think we've got all kinds of good stuff to talk about today.
That was your lead? Like, yep. Yep. It's a thing.
I
Doing
slept
that, yeah.
right on it.
I bet you did. Well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Like, lay the groundwork for these people here. So, obviously,
Okay.
if you haven't started watching this show, turn this off because we're going to talk about stuff.
Are we going
Spoil
to
it.
have spoilers?
Yeah, there could be.
There might be some spoilers.
There could be
Let's
some
start with
spoilers.
the Coen brothers.
Now that the hot dish is out, this is our full recap of the episode. So you're in for the long haul now. We're gonna dissect the show. We're gonna say what we think. We're gonna maybe give some predictions. We're just gonna shoot the shit. So let's set up the time period. We're going back to 1979.
What a year. You weren't even born.
So you would have been about just coming out of college, 1979, right? So why don't you tell us? Why don't you tell us about the era?
Are you talking about me or John? Because
I'm
John's
talking about
older
Bill.
than me. Oh, well, I was 3, so lay off me.
I was running the Reagan campaign. We were waiting for Dutch to come.
So 1979 was a big year for science fiction. We know that. Star Trek, the motion picture, came out in 1979. That was a big deal.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek.
Oh.
Star Trek, the motion picture, came out 10 years after.
Oh, not
Well, that wasn't Khan.
The
Yeah.
I
television
know, I just
series.
wanted to say con.
But that Star Trek sucked.
Well, that's besides the point.
No, okay, well.
A lot of shit
It was a
sucked
big
in.
year for sucking then.
A lot of stuff
Yeah.
sucked.
Well,
in
you know it
79.
didn't.
Yeah.
You know it didn't
Gas
suck.
sucked. Big cars sucked gas.
Alien came out in 1979. That didn't suck.
True.
Mad Max. That didn't
Did
suck.
not suck.
I feel like right now you've just got one of those bookmarks that says, you were born in this year. Here's the fun
I think
facts."
someone's looking at the 1979 Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Do you have the Farmer's Almanac or something? Yeah, what's going on?
All right, jerk off.
You just really like setting the scene. I
All right,
appreciate
take
that.
the show, Bill.
I'm just kidding. No, keep going. Let's talk about music.
Sure. One of the most popular songs of the year. You guys might have heard of it. YMCA by the Village People.
Oof. Dang.
We also have Hot Stuff and I Will Survive. Classics.
Disco.
I'm glad we're not hearing any of that in the show, to be honest. That would be
Not yet.
I don't think Jeff Russo would let that happen.
I don't know.
necessarily.
We've heard already more kind of vintage soundtrack stuff than we've heard in the first season.
I think, yeah.
And I think in the trailers we're hearing what Dr. John, right place, wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're obviously they're trying to set it in a time period.
Yeah,
so
he's setting tone.
tone.
More than era. Visually, though, they're definitely going for the era stuff.
right.
So we open with that introduction is pretty was kind of fun.
I hope they continue that split screen storytelling because I think it could be really interesting to sort of see some, complete 180 degree visuals of scenes, like where you're given two perspectives of the same scene. I think that could be really interesting maybe later on, or hopefully it is. Maybe we'll see, you can see something happening in the background that the main character wouldn't see or your main perspective wouldn't see. I think that could be pretty cool if it's played that way, and if it's not, it's just kind of a fun thing.
Yeah. The Massacre at Sioux Falls was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, so we'll kind of break down the show basically chronologically in accordance to the way the show played out, I suppose. We start off with a scene from a fictitious Ronald Reagan movie being filmed, The Massacre at Sioux Falls.
Of a fictitious war. A fictitious event, I believe, too.
Well, there was an actual massacre of Sioux Indians in that area about 100 years prior, which it could be a reference to that.
Okay.
In history, it kind of gets glossed over because it was around the Civil War period. So, the killing of 350 Native Americans just didn't really seem like that big of a deal when 10,000 people died that day in the Civil War. So I think it kind of gets glossed over. But in that very region, there actually was a Sioux Indian or Native American rather massacre, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe perhaps it's a reference to that. I don't know. What we do know is that it wasn't a real Ronald Reagan movie.
No, it wasn't.
But a great kickoff to the season.
And for whatever it's worth, we were just kind of nitpicking around and stuff. And it was like in 79, Reagan wasn't. Obviously, it was black and white, so it definitely wasn't 79. But I don't know. Maybe I think they're just trying to intro the character of Ron. Good old Ronnie to us, Dutch. That's about it, I think.
Yeah, that could be.
So after we get our little deal, we end up at the typewriter store scene at Carriage Typewriters, right?
That's right. We're at Carriage Typewriters.
The grand reopening with the store that seems to have all their windows kind of... I was trying to decide, are they blocked over like with soapy stuff so people can't see before their grand reopening? Or are they doing the frosting, or are they just... Maybe it was just as part of production they had to do that because they couldn't stop cars from like 2,000 driving down the street.
So is Carriage Typewriters, do we know what town that is? Are we in Laverne when we're at Carriage Typewriters? Or
That's what I don't know.
Well, I don't even know, were we in Laverne when we meet the Gerhardt brothers? I think that hasn't been established either, exactly where we were, because that's when they're waiting for little Gerhardt to show up.
Or did that show Sioux Falls? Did they say there was like the stuff across the screen? I don't know.
You might be right. That might be Sioux Falls. It might have said.
I don't know where they were, and I have to say I didn't know who they were. I didn't realize that was Tate Donovan. And I thought that looked like a Culkin, and it turns out, yes, it was Kieran Culkin.
That wasn't Tate Donovan, though.
Who is it?
Sharpie helped me out on his name. We talked about him last time. He's from Burn Notice. Do you have your IMDb pulled up, bro?
Are you talking about Dodd Gerhardt?
Yeah. The tough one.
Jeffrey Donovan?
Yeah.
It was close.
Okay. Close but wrong.
Close but totally wrong.
Totally wrong.
Yep. So we see them, and I'm not sure if we know exactly where they are. We do know that the Gerhardt compound is in Fargo.
It seems like it, or somewhere outside of Fargo.
Well, to us it would look like outside of Fargo, but I think they're saying it's in Fargo.
Yeah, well, they operate out of Fargo.
There's at least no mountains like there are in other North Dakota depictions and other TV shows that won't be named Blood and Oil.
We also definitely learned, though, that that Rye has got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, a little man syndrome or something.
Definitely some little man syndrome going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think there's a little bit of Lester in that little man syndrome? Because Lester kind of had that too, where he felt like he had to prove himself quite often and then just ended up getting himself in more trouble.
I thought it seemed like he was really kind of channeling Steve Buscemi.
Sure.
Yeah. Like he's like, he's got something to prove all the time.
I thought in this whole episode, not to jump ahead, but there's a lot of homages to the movie Fargo. And there's a lot of tributes to the first season. So I think in this case, this was one of the, for me, it was one of the homages to the movie.
There's some of that definitely going on. I can't remember exactly the line, but when he talks to him about, still wearing the short pants, I love the way that sounded and how off-putting it was. Like you're in little britches.
What does he call him? He says that you're the cartoon that comes with gum.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the
very
comic
dismissive
in the bubblegum wrapper.
Comic.
So, but we basically find out here why it sets Rye on a mission to seek out this judge that in the hot dish, Sharpie was like, man, she just seems so Cusack-y.
She sounded exactly like Joan Cusack.
That's what I said. Yeah,
it's because it's Ann
Cusack. Yep.
Thanks to Antsman41 who follows us on Twitter for giving us the point out to that. Because sometimes when we record the hot dish, using IMDb simultaneously is too hard for Sharpie and I.
It is. I was scrambling during that whole time trying to do research, and sometimes you just can't get it off in the hot dish. That's what the hot dish is for, though.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of... He seems like he's got a lot to prove, and I think that's where the wrench and numbers type S thing came in. And I had tweeted, and Jeff Russo responded about that it definitely was that, and I thought he wants to be pretty badass, but he's not.
Yep. Jeff Russo, the composer of Fargo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for the shout-out on Twitter there. That was an awesome confirmation.
Yeah, that was fun.
So we get into this tailgating of the judge, which is kind of a cool montage because it's sort of like it's a long tailgate. I mean, he starts probably from, 4 or 5 o'clock, and he follows her through the night to the diner. And I thought there was
in Laverne.
So even aside from the cool wrench and numbers-esque soundtrack that's playing there, we go into a song by Billy Thorpe, "Children of the Sun." And the only reason why I thought that was kind of interesting will come in a little bit later, but the lyrics are kind of cool, where Billy Thorpe is singing about people of the earth, can you hear me? Came a voice from the sky on that magical night, which could be maybe a little tiny bit of foreshadowing to that UFO scene. I'm not sure, but it was pretty interesting to me.
They should look that up. We'll put. I'll do my best to make sure I put a link to that in the show notes if you want to go check that out. And then
it's a decent song too.
Well, there's also a line in there, the setting fire to the sky, and I was like, I did make my fire in the sky comment somewhere, or did you? I don't remember.
Yeah, we commented on Fire in the Sky in the Hot Dish prior to this episode of Fargo Talks Fargo. So that's kind of interesting that we came upon that once we got into the deep dive.
I think, too, that we mentioned for just going forward, last year there was a lot of back and forth, Bemidji, Duluth, all this. Just, if you're from the area, just zip it. We know you can't get from those towns to those other towns that fast, but if you could, it would be a pretty boring TV show. So they just got to get there. It's not important.
It's a sacrifice to make.
Absolutely.
It's a small sacrifice to make.
Yeah. But we landed the Waffle Hut, and
sister restaurant to Pancake's house.
I love it, and I think the part I loved the most, I just felt like there was a rhythm to the whole thing as he walked in, switched the seat, went over to see her, the witty dialogue. I mean, was there something that struck you a lot about that scene? Because I thought it was the most, firing off, what's happening.
You know something's going to happen, and I think, again, that's where this kind of nod to the Coen brothers, where he's sitting at the counter, and each time the waitress comes over and offers to do something, freshen up his thing, or ask him if he wants creamer or salt or rather sugar or whatever, he gets really agitated. And again, it's kind of like the Steve Buscemi, but then it's also like there's that sense of humor in there, and that, like, how uncomfortable he is, because he also just took a big snort of Coke. He's all coked up and he's nervous and he's going to try to prove himself a man and
set it right.
And it doesn't work.
Doesn't pan out very well for Little Rye. Yeah, I like that too. I think you're really spot on with that. Just about and it's also just this tie to service around here sometimes in the Midwest can be a little overly nice. Like
she certainly was like a very Midwestern, the chipper kind of everything just being right on it.
Drop your food off, and before you've even got it into your mouth, they're like, "Oh, how's it going?
How's the first bite then?
How's the first bite? Yeah.
Okay. How's that hot dish?"
Sorry, servers, don't do that out there.
So we finally get Rye face to face with the judge, the very Cusack-y judge, and
who happens to be actually Cusack.
And Rye basically tries to boss her around and get her to change her mind on some of these rulings she's made, with the carriage typewriter guy. And she goes into this story about the devil and God and making a bet where the devil wants to bet God that he can make a man curse his name. And so they decide to use Job as their plaything. And the devil goes into killing all of Job's herds and whatnot and plaguing him with boils, and still it doesn't change his mind. So I think that was kind of interesting, and I've read a few articles about this, and I don't think we have to go into it too much, but what was kind of interesting is that people were saying that Rye doesn't really understand the moral of the story because Rye's putting himself in Job's position, because why would he put himself in Satan's position? So he's not really understanding what she's saying. And I think that is probably what the audience thought as well. And perhaps the judge is even putting herself in Job's position. I've read that argument as well. But even though, do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
That's why he wasn't understanding what she was saying?
I think he's just a little dumb. Like she says, "Oh, you're
dim.
You're dumb. You're dim." And I think she thinks herself pretty big, but she's, unfortunately, for her sake, because I would have loved to hear more witty lines from her. I think she's underestimated his. He's so dim that it's gonna end poorly for her, or it does end poorly for her.
And so it does.
Yeah. Plus, gob and magic. Sorry.
So, Rye puts an end to her, shoots her down. Out comes the star athlete, Cook, in the back. He gets shot dead.
And that was interesting, too. That goes into slow motion. That's something we haven't seen before, have we?
I don't think we did see any, big time slow motion or anything. Like I talked about on the Hot Dish, John. I don't know if you heard it. Of course you heard it because you love our show.
Absolutely.
That it was just that door was like a tick-tock pendulum-y thing, and that every swing of that brought
it amps up the tension without having to blatantly do it.
I just thought it was shot really well and fun. Although I really, really still, upon a second watching, wanted Rye to just get slammed in the face with that frying pan.
Well, he does get hit.
Yeah.
He takes a knife to the back, takes a steak knife. And that was, I think, out of there's 3 murders in that scene. And that, in a way, was, to me, the most cringeworthy when he's trying to pull the knife out.
Oh, I know. And you're like, can you reach it? Can you reach it? Can you reach it? And you're like, oh, God.
It's interesting that the judge, even went for that stab move, because she could have just laid there. But it shows her character, how she's super
justice.
tough.
Justice.
Yep.
She will not let that stand.
Yep.
This aggression will not stand, man.
That's
there he goes.
I probably said that last season too, but I say that actually at least once a month to somebody somewhere.
It wouldn't surprise me that a judge would try to do what they perceive to be the right thing versus self-preservation. Live up to the to deliver justice over.
I just, even as short as her thing was, the character has the judge, jury, and executioner vibe about her.
Yeah. Which contradicts, the waitress's reaction, because she also made it through that first round and then ran. Right.
Which again,
exactly
a nice homage to not only to the Coens, but now in the opening series almost of the movie, the first season and this season, we see somebody running off into the snow, being shot in the back.
Yes.
Well, actually, in the first one, he didn't get necessarily shot; he froze to death. But you see this disabled person who's been hurt by the
Lauren Malvo and
then the Steve Buscemi and
Gare.
Gare. And then in this one, the poor waitress who gets shot, she tries to make a run for it, and he has to go out into the snow and shoot. I thought that was a nice homage to Fargo. I'm not sure if that was intended. To me, that seemed like in a way, I kind of believe that you have to notice that, but.
Yeah, so that will be interesting. For season 3, we should look forward to that shot in the back in the snow scene.
Because as far as I know right now, there better be a season 3, because I already feel amped about season 2.
You can't just do 1, 2. You have to at least do 3.
Trifecta.
That's the rule, I'm pretty sure they say.
So waitress dies, and plus you have to kill somebody outside in the snow because it makes for an incredible image of just red on white, just purity and yeah. But so UFO, huh?
Now we're getting into the good stuff.
Okay then.
Yeah, so we see Rye after he painstakingly reloads that revolver and puts that final round in the waitress, he runs out to the road because he's drawn there by some interesting lights. And when you see those lights, you're kind of like, you're kind of expecting a visitor, not in the sense that we eventually get, but, somebody's coming to the diner. Those must be headlights, whatever.
I thought it was like somebody coming through the woods for a minute, like on a snowmobile.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Or was it a plane coming in low or something like that? No.
Get to the chopper. Something along that line.
It turns out it is indeed an unidentified flying object as far as we're concerned. We have not identified it.
Yeah. And while he's staring blankly into the sky, as Sharpie called her in our show notes, Peggy Numbnuts. I have to say that because it's funny. Oh, geez. She totally nails him with the car.
But at first we don't know that. We don't.
Yeah.
You see him get hit by a car.
But everybody listening knows.
Yeah, because you've seen the show.
They've seen the show. But I did find and see somewhere about the Val Johnson incident. And it was north, kind of up by Stephen, but back in '79, there was a guy who, not a guy, but it's an alleged UFO encounter in Marshall County, Minnesota, by Sheriff Val Johnson, and according to Wikipedia, so look it up, the Val Johnson incident. There was a beam of light, and it messed up his cruiser on the road and all sorts of stuff. But the guy actually had a appearance on ABC's Good Morning America program about it, and caused he and his family all sorts of emotional strain and stuff. But so, hey, just so you know, there's UFOs here. Don't even make me tell the story about when I saw one, so that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. But
yeah, don't ask Limpy about his probe.
Oh, that's where we're at. But so we make wild speculations every year. We look at strange stuff. So I'm going to play a clip here of when Rye gets pummeled by the car.
Yikes.
Yeah, not so good. And here's the dinging that Sharpie and I wanted to talk about. So let's just take mental note of that, and we'll come back to it later.
Yeah, we're noticing a little bit of a theme surrounding Peggy Numbnuts.
Yeah, and just to go further conspiracy theory, which absolutely has nothing to do with anything. I told Sharpie, I said, "Holy cow! Look, there are 6 V's in the parking lot. V for visitors. The lights look like V's, and there's 6 of them because there's always a lot of 6s that come up.
And that's our paranoia.
And then there's some kind of a sign, some kind of a human figure on a big sign in the background somewhere, and that gets they look at that later, shows up later. Kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that leads into anything, but again, kind of a nice Midwestern 70s, 80s.
Yeah,
nice little touch.
So the UFO thing, I don't know if we're gonna see any more of this. I'm expecting to not see any more of it. I think this was just kind of a fun thing that's in there to represent. You disagree?
I didn't know. I mean, I don't know if I disagree, because then I'll just give the caveat that I didn't read it, but I saw a couple people commenting that there was an interview with Noah Hawley who said that part will get wrapped up or will come to light somehow.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Unless I'm crazy. Please feel free to dig me for it.
Well, though, keep in mind, too, that he had little Gerhard there had just taken a pretty strong bump of coke.
And bug spray to the face. He may not be in the right frame of mind. He's all hopped up on goofballs.
I need to get some of that bug spray.
Sharpie's out of gold paint.
Hey, you guys want to come over? I got a can of Bust.
Is that what it was? Bust?
That's what it was. Bust. Yeah, well,
thought
if it
that
does
was-
come back, then cool. If it doesn't, I'm totally happy with it exactly the way it is because I think those types of little fun things are important. I think they don't have to always come back around. I think the UFO thing represents a paranoia that's sort of surrounding the time period, coming out of Vietnam and coming out of Watergate, where up is down and down is up and whatever's going on. Like, people are very uncertain about current events and the things that are going on in the world. And I think the UFO, especially being that there were a lot of UFO sightings at the time, sci-fi is getting big in motion pictures and pop culture. I think that it's just a representation of the time period. So I'm fine if it doesn't come back. If it does, then that will be fun too.
It could just be karmic deity takes Rye's life as a final fuck you.
Yep.
So there you have it.
There you have it.
Here we are. Now we move from this, and I found something real quick because we don't have to go super deep dive. These are just things we're noticing because this show is when they just basically unpack everything for us and start letting us see what they've got. But we meet younger Lou reading to a young Molly Solverson, and I told Sharpie I had to look it up because I'm always thinking, well, what's he reading? He's reading the Five Little Peppers, and Five Little Peppers was a super old book from way back in the day, from like 1881 to 1916. Feel free to Wikipedia this. Wikipedia is all of our friends, but they describe the little pepper books. If you look it up, they all give like a very similar description about what it was the Peppers who were poor were trying to do, and one of the things they are always trying to do is keep the wolf from the door, which I feel is a pretty big throwback to Lorne Malvo, the wolf. That so even as a youngster to keep the wolf from the door, but in back in those days, keeping the wolf from the door was basically keeping yourself warm and fed for poor people. So there you go. There's that fun little.
Yeah, you say we don't have to do deep dives, but I think that's a pretty good deep dive find, Bill.
It felt so deep.
If you're interested in reading the page that is actually being read in the show, it's page 67 from that book. Mm-hmm. Not like you'd want to, but
no big whoop.
No big whoop.
And some of those books are on the Guggenheim Project, so you can actually open them up and look at them. Anyway, there was some other stuff I found about that, but I don't think we need to get into that now. We'll just take the mental note that I'm coming back to that, because who knows, maybe he'll be reading these Pepper books on and off all season with all sorts of little nuggets in there.
Yeah, there could be nuggets.
Yeah.
We like nugs.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of nugs, here's one. Maybe, again, I'm going too far into things, but on the Solverson's fridge, there's a drawing, like from a coloring book, of a sheep. And that sheep is wearing an orange sweater, very similar to Lester's orange jacket, which I thought was kind of interesting. And Lester was kind of a sheep, if you will, being herded around by more powerful characters in last season.
Right.
Just a little tidbit. Don't know if it really means anything. Don't know if it was on purpose or if I'm just like creating my own symbolism, but
let's keep that up.
Yeah.
We cut back to the diner, and because Lou gets called away, and I mean, basically, this brings us back here. It gives us the first taste of what kind of detective he is, or what kind of sheriff he is.
Well, not only that, but we are introduced to the Ted Danson character.
Yes, that's right, Hank Larson.
Hank.
And what I think is, what's his first line? This is a deal.
This is a deal, isn't it?
This is a
something
deal.
Like that. Yeah, and I love that.
So again, there's this kind of, and again, with to the first one with Marge, to the movie Marge and her I can't remember what was his name.
Who? Her husband?
No. Marge and her. Who was the guy?
Yeah. No, it's escaping me
right
now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, so yeah, that not only with the heck of a deal, or this is a deal, but then also they're standing there again. You're winter, obviously, so they are going to be fully dressed in their gear. But
yeah, everybody's got the Sorel boots kind of thing going on. I think too, it's just I'm going to bring this back up really briefly in a little bit here, but the matter of factness of it, though, this is a deal. I think that's always the interesting part about the way they portray the Midwest, in this show about how they would deal with death. I mean, I know it's a professional thing, but they act like they don't see it ever. But
You know what I think it is? I think it's these two characters. Well, we learn later on that Lou was in Vietnam. So he's seen much worse than this. It's recent. He's hardened. This is nothing compared to the things he's seen. And
well, that's what I was gonna
okay.
say.
So we don't know about Hank yet, but he's definitely of the age where he quite possibly could have been the Korean War.
Yeah.
He's probably a little young for World War II, but maybe it's possible.
And I think also it's the Midwestern sense of that you feel like you should say something. You don't know what you say.
Oh, yeah.
So you say something totally inoffensive and that doesn't really say anything. But in not saying anything,
Yeah,
says
you're
quite a
right.
bit.
There's
the I suppose. Or
yeah.
well, I guess.
Okay then. Okay then.
Okay then. It's the kind of the way to transfer, to move it forward just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I mean, so that in that sense, that type of dialogue does make a lot more sense to me. But sometimes until somebody points out the way we live, I don't realize it.
Yeah.
So
that, and we get some fun little quips between those two. I mean, we know that Hank is Lou's father-in-law, and they're both concerned about Lou's wife, Hank's daughter, who we learn has cancer.
yes.
So we get a very Midwestern father-son sort of a bit cold conversation, but yet an attempt to. It's sort of the man way to talk about your feelings, I guess.
And they do it through the daughter,
right?
Like through Hank's daughter. It's the way they are able to they are unable to completely talk directly to each other, but they can start conversations that his wife, who by the way is Ted Mosby's wife, in the thing.
She's in The Wolf of Wall Street too, isn't that the wife in The Wolf of Wall Street?
Oh,
the actress's name? Christina Milioti.
Yeah, Christina Milioti.
That's why.
But anyways, the other thing too about the thing that I loved about that scene is that while they are talking about the daughter, they somehow, the way they talk about her is really about food, and that she has been making these meals out of these index cards she sent away for something she saw on TV. The index cards, and I don't know if you guys remember this. I remember this, seeing these commercials for that. Again, a really they've done their research in the 70s. Obviously, they lived through it.
Yeah,
but a really nice touch there to the time and to that kind of phenomenon of, oh, if it's on Ronco, well, let's try it.
Period correctness about what was actually happening.
Yeah, absolutely spot on.
I mean, how many times you growing up did any of your mothers, you would look in her recipe box and there was a whole bunch of handwritten ones, but somewhere it was smattered throughout them were some sort of cards that came in some sort of mailed thing
or a magazine,
a magazine, or cut out of the back.
Well,
of a
just that exactly
box.
that there was the recipe box,
Yeah.
and that they were on index cards.
But they had the dotted line, like cut this out. Oh yeah.
And when they're talking about that, Hank says something which I thought was pretty great, where he says he describes the delicacies of the world, food that she's preparing, as variety. And I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like, oh, so you like, variety. And I thought that was interesting because a lot of the food in the Midwest is the exact opposite of that. It's pretty much all white, a lot of cream, a lot of potatoes.
Well, because they talk about what, the souffle? Was it a souffle that she brings to the table?
She set it on fire.
Lights a perfectly good
casserole.
On fire.
Perfectly good casserole on fire.
Yeah. Also, I know Sharpie had made the note that because I get into numbers that dinner was at 6 the next night, right?
You guys are really honing in on this 6 o'clock. 6
Dinner
p.m.
was at 6.
Just stick around.
All
We'll see
right.
what happens. Plus, like I said, we love conspiracy theories that never come around.
It's the first episode. We're latching on to absolutely everything.
Because nobody else eats at 6. That's just unheard of in the Midwest.
We're officially
to eat at 6 on Sunday.
No, well, okay, wait. We got to back up. Oh, wait. Did we miss the part where... Nope, we're not there yet. It's coming. It's coming.
They go
It's
outside.
coming. Nope, it's coming. So there were 6 lights in the parking lot, and it's 6 o'clock for the thing. And anyway, so we go to the butcher shop, and Bud's Meats and Ed Blomquist. So yeah, we have the whole okay then thing, and they have their just general okay then conversation by and all that. But on the cash register, the price is that's still rung up as 669, and 9 is just an upside down 6, and 666, we all know what that stands
69
for.
means something to some other people.
Yeah, 6 times 16.
What?
So anyway, that's where I'm tying all this dumb shit together. Even though it's like the chance of having a 6 in something is what, 1 in 10? 1, 2, 3, yeah. Whatever, I can't stop myself.
As we move into the exterior shot right before we get introduced into Bud's Meats and Ed Blomquist, we see an exterior shot of the, I don't know, downtown Laverne, maybe it's supposed to be. Is that where the butcher shop is? That's in Laverne?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And
So-
when John was just tapping me because he realized we forgot to mention one thing that you and I have discussed was the
shoe in the
shoe
tree.
in the tree.
Oh,
Is that
yeah,
a
we
shoe
did
in the
pass
tree?
that.
But I thought that, again, it's kind of another nice, even not maybe a hint to the Coens, but that kind of oddity.
Yeah.
It's
And
an
that
odd-
oddity and the subtle kind of
It's-
delivery.
It's the delivery and the tone of comments like that feel Coen worldish.
And I think like in the trailers or in the clips, they I think Ted Danson says something like, "Should we get that down?" And I don't know, did he say that in the actual
He
show?
did say
I
it.
don't know. He did.
Okay,
did.
okay.
It wasn't, I think it was kind of glossed over a little bit, whereas in the trailers, it was sort of like a major line. But yeah, I believe he did say it. And that shoe's going to obviously be super important. That's clearly Rye's shoe that flew off of his foot when he got rocked by Peggy Numbnuts. So that what's awesome about that, and I hope that comes into play in the next episode, but it might take a little longer than that. That's obviously is what's going to tie the detectives back to the Gerhardt family.
Are you guys placing bets then that Peggy's license plate number has a 6 in it?
There was. I got a little wrapped up on the license plate thing last year, and it turned out to not be shit. But either way, it's still fun getting started. I feel like we have so much we have to go through still. We've already been doing this for.
I mean, that's what they did last year too. Is that they introduced so many things and they linger on things just enough that you're trying to figure out: is this something I should pay attention to? Is this something that's going to come back? Is this something that we should know about? Let's look into it. And a fair amount of times it doesn't amount to anything, or it just could be something that's thrown in for artifice or for kind of beauty's sake, for the sake of the phrase or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes you just want to say something, and you're like, "How can I?"
And
get
that's a credit to Noah Hawley.
Yeah. I feel like we should have an ad break.
Let's do it.
So once again this season, Fargo Brewing has stepped up and is an incredible sponsor to us. They're fantastic guys who brew fantastic beer in fantastic Fargo, North Dakota. But you don't have to just drink their beer in Fargo. They are all over the place. They are distributed all over North Dakota. They're in Minnesota. They're in South Dakota too. So you can pick that up in Sioux Falls if you so choose.
Yeah, all over the place.
In the Midwest, that's pretty much everywhere, man.
That is a lot of land area.
But the Fargo Brewing is sponsoring us again, along with we are promoting their Wood Chipper IPA, which, yes, like as in wood chipper, like as in Fargo.
That's right.
And it is a fantastic IPA. And I mean, I just keep saying that it's last year, we kept telling you about its velvety body and its deep, rich everything. But here's the deal. I can't say that anymore this season. Here's what I'm going to say. It's bananas. It's good. It's bonkers. Just go get some and try it. I don't have to talk to you about all those deep words. It's just fucking good. There, I used an F-bomb in Fargo Brewing's sponsor read. But here's the deal. If you want to, let them know, because we haven't set up any specials with them, because they have T-shirts and some things, and we're going to talk to them about seeing what we can do to maybe get some of those for you guys. But you want to help us know that you're listening, just go to fargobrewing.com. Let's see if we can put like a nice spike in their web traffic, because do they run any analytics? Do you know, Sharpie?
Yep.
Boom. So let's just see. As you listen to this, let's give them a hefty boost. They'll have like tens of hundreds of visitors today. No, I'm just kidding. They'll have a lot all the time, because people are checking out their tap room hours and everything they have going on. And not to mention, as we said last week, congrats to them though for winning a bronze at the Great American Beer Festival in Colorado this year.
That's right.
So I'm not joking. They're a great sponsor. They do really make great beer. We really do drink it in quantities that our mothers don't want to know about. But go check out fargobrewing.com. If you're in Fargo or in the area, stop by their tap room. It's open. It's all online at fargobrewing.com. Go check it out. Go there, buy a t-shirt, support local beer and craft brewing.
Tell them Fargo Talks Fargo sent you. Maybe you'll get a deal. Maybe you won't. Who knows?
They might just slap you in the face. That's how it goes around here.
That's right.
So, okay, we got to get back. So we finally, speaking of beer, we're at the Legion, eh?
Yes, it appears we are at the Legion.
Carl Weathers and Sharpie and I's keen eye to stare at details instead of listening to the dialogue sometimes finds that we had the conversation, wow, was there Miller Lite yet? And I'm like, nope, that's 73. We're good with that. And then
there was definitely
Sharpie,
hams.
I said, yeah, Sharpie, is that a hams? And a little bit of pausing. Yep, that's a hams. And I'm almost positive that Lou was drinking a Leinenkugels. Leinie's original lager.
With the red label.
So with the red label on top, white label on the lower with the red logo through the middle, which was one of my go-to beers in college outside of Guinness. So
absolutely.
Yeah, not as good as Fargo Brewing, but because they didn't exist yet.
What do beers come in? 6 packs.
Mm.
You guys?
Nice.
All right.
Didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you're going to say that, John, smart ass, feel free to rewatch that. And as the guy is reading off bingo, almost down one entire row, all the numbers in, I think, the I row have 6s in them.
But doesn't I mean...
Shut up, Sharpie.
Mind blown.
Oh, really
G would be the 60s, I believe.
Yeah, whatever. Just go watch
Isn't
it
it
again.
weird that all the G's have 6s in them?
Shut up. I'm just going to play this up now.
Okay.
Either way, we meet Carl Weathers, conspirry theorist. Sharpie.
Well, I mean, get back to the name Carl Weathers. I mean, how do you come up with the name Carl Weathers? You can't avoid that name and not think Apollo Creed, Rocky. I mean,
right.
Carl. How do you get Carl Johnson, Carl anything? Carl Weathers?
I don't
Carl with a K, I guess.
I kept waiting when I first saw the name Carl Weathers, but I didn't know what type of character it was going to be. I was like, please tell me he's the local weatherman. like he's operating under a different name. Yeah, it's like it's his TV made for TV name. But they really set the tone here, don't you think, Sharpie, about the current state? Or did you feel that way too, John? That they're really setting the political and economic climate and distrust.
As much as things get spelled out, that is kind of the most revealing part of the show that you're talking about that, and that I think Noel Hawley has alluded to or talked to about before, is that kind of the use of Ronald Reagan and the tone in the late 70s. Definitely.
Yeah. Which is also I apologize for not remembering where I read a quick thing because I didn't have as much time to read today as I wanted, but is also setting the tone for small town America versus big industrial everything and consumerism, and we're eventually going to set the tone for a big crime syndicate versus local crime syndicate.
That's right. But
I think Sharpie, do you want to say anything about it? You'd picked out a clip here we're going to play.
Well, first of all, I just think that and that clip will get into something deep and maybe a little in left field, but I feel like Carl Weathers is sort of playing the narrator, kinda. He's sort of like a narrative character, but he's in the show. You know what I mean?
It's the chorus.
Yes, exactly.
I think that he kind of spells it out, and like, now we're in this year. Now we're experiencing these things. Yeah, I think he serves that.
These are the things we're gonna see. These are the things to come. Things are not what you expected. He's that voice.
Doesn't he remind you a bit though of the John Goodman character though in Big Lebowski?
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, I didn't piece that one together.
Because he's also the other conspiracy theory kind of.
And then the other character that's there is a total dimwit.
Yep.
Wow, nice catch. I like that. Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in that exact scene in Fargo or in Big Lebowski, I was kind of drawn to that scene when in the background of that when they're going over conspiracy theories and they're going over like the score, market 7 Donnie or whatever, or market a spare or whatever.
Market 0.
Market 0, yeah.
Over the line.
And in the background, you see George Bush, and he's talking about how this aggression will not stand. Well, Noah, in some interviews, Noah Hawley was quoted many times as quoting Ronald Reagan and him saying, "It's not complicated. We are Americans. We can get through this." And this may be a stretch, but when Lou Salverson is talking to Carl, he specifically says, it's not complex. There's nothing complex about it. And I wasn't sure if that was like sort of a tie back to The Big Lebowski, where the character references something the president or future president says. I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch. Subconsciously.
That's interesting that you said complex as opposed to complex. So, I think because they had just been talking about the military industrial complex.
And that's where this quote comes from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Balls. Tell this dipshit pissant about Ike's farewell address.
You mean the military industrial complex?
See? He knows.
Of course, we've been to war. Nothing complex about it.
How come
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like it. And then we did see there are some Ronald Reagan posters in the background, which I also thought was interesting, seeing as Reagan didn't announce his, unless they're setting the tone for it, obviously, and it doesn't have to be perfectly historical context, because this is a true story. But Reagan, I don't think, actually launched his campaign until the November, right? Yeah, a year ahead, November of 79. So it happens in this year. So what I can't figure out is, are we at the end of 79 or the beginning? I keep trying to find a calendar somewhere, and whatnot. But I mean, we have to figure out how to introduce Bruce Campbell.
Right. Exactly. He doesn't have a speaking role in this first episode, but
We just keep alluding to him.
yeah, but not even overtly. Like, that's a good catch. I did not catch that the first time around. The posters in the background.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe it's the downfall of when we do this show. Sometimes Sharpie catches like certain other things, and I'm like staring at random things. And so the posters are there, but we also, continuing with what Sharpie had pulled up with this, I'm just going to play one more part of this clip from this same scene here.
Minnesota, Carl. Not a presidential assassination.
Oh, sure. That's how it starts, with something small. Like a break-in at the Watergate Hotel. But just watch. This thing's only getting bigger.
G53.
Oh, now I'm going to pause real quick and point out it's 10, 26, 36, 60, 61. I don't know. And then there's a 16 in there. Lots of stuff. Whatever.
All right.
Oh, God, I can't stop. Hey, but I think this line is also about the story that we're about to see.
Of course.
Like, you think you're seeing something? It's going to get bigger. There's so much going to happen. This is going to get deep and exciting.
The foreshadowing.
I think
it's not even foreshadowing.
No,
really
it's not.
foretelling.
It's just, and I think this ties very directly to, wait, was it you or Sharpie that said that he's a little bit of the narrator?
That's right.
The chorus, I would say, the Greek chorus, kind of pushing stuff along. But we'll see. We'll see how long. If he is, is he that main of a character that recurs from time to time, and how they use him.
So real briefly, we have talked about Bruce Campbell playing Ronald Reagan, but did you guys know that Bruce Campbell plays a lot of sort of minor characters in Coen Brothers movies, including the fact that he was in Fargo on the soap opera that is playing on the TV in the cabin that Steve Buscemi's character is in when they're out in the woods right before his demise.
Yeah.
Thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Tell us more, fact boy.
He was also in The Lady Killers. Did you guys see that?
No, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that version, no.
And Hudsucker Proxy, one of my favorite movies of all time.
I think in Lady Killers there was also a Waffle Hut.
Was there?
I think they went to a Waffle Hut. Maybe. I think so. I saw that in one of the stories that I read today.
Bill, check the facts.
Well, I mean, Waffle Huts are a real place, though.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that.
What?
Yeah.
You mean aside from Waffle House?
Pancake's house.
No,
Oh,
Waffle,
Waffle
House.
House is the real place.
It's a southern, yeah. Waffle
Oh, I
House
don't
is a
know.
real southern.
Yes, there are places. At least if you Google Waffle Hut, you'll see it.
Although Waffle Hut, the signs look a lot like Waffle House.
I saw a thing on Reddit where somebody was arguing about whether or not there was a Waffle Hut in Laverne. And somebody wrote and said
Well-
they cleared it up on Reddit. Somebody wrote the Chamber of Commerce in Laverne to clarify whether or not there was a Waffle Hut, but they somehow wrote back with something to the effect of, well, there was this here, and it was the Corner Diner, and at that time they probably were like debuting waffles and like Belgian waffles and stuff. Facts. Straight
Get
from
into
Laverne. Boom. Yeah. Did you want to tell us the rest of your Bruce Campbell tidbits?
I don't know. I don't know if they're that interesting, but he was in Spider-Man with Kirsten Dunst, so they're probably good pals, good buddy old pals.
Which they
The
hang out
first
all the
one,
time.
you know, the shitty one.
The
Actually, that's the only one I saw, and then I stopped with the Spider-Man movies.
Then you're done. And scene.
And then he was also in an Old Spice commercial, and I did pull that clip, but just because I thought it was funny. In lieu of him playing a political character, this Old Spice commercial is something that sounds exactly like a politician. Even though they're not
Ooh.
related whatsoever, I just thought it was funny. You can play it if you want. It's not
I don't
relevant.
have it pulled up.
Okay, it's not relevant
Well,
to the it's not
I
relevant
can
to the
remember to-
story. We can move on.
Maybe I'll see if we can put it in the show.
If you're
notes, but
curious, look up Bruce Campbell's Old Spice commercial. It's kind of funny.
If you're Bruce curious.
If you're Bruce curious. If you're Bruce
Yeah.
serious.
Brucerous. So the Blomquist home. Blomquist, the Brooks. So we finally meet Peggy. No, we got to stop calling her Peggy Numbnuts.
I think that's her name, right?
No, her name is Peggy Blomquist. We meet her in her kitchen, which is straight out of the 70s. Epically awesome. And she's rocking everything. She's got all the stuff. She's got all the tchotchkes on the walls and everything she needs. I just think she's a real gem.
She's got the menu.
Yeah, she does. She's got the recipe cards too, I bet.
Probably. I don't know if she would get she'd get exotic enough to try a souffle. I think she's gonna stick with the hamburger helper and tater tots.
I bet she even I bet she gets a little outside of her comfort zone and goes to the tuna helper every once in a while.
That would be the extent. That would
Well,
be living on the edge.
the thing I thought about when I watched this scene, though, just to get all thinky about it for a minute, was that he wanted to move those magazines, and they're like in his chair, and whatever's in those magazines is replacing him. It's something in there is a world that she wants beyond what Ed and his butcher shop can give her, and therefore, I mean, because I kept thinking, she's like, oh, I just got those all organized, and I'm like, well, they're so important to her that he literally can't just pick the stack up and move it so he can like plant his ass in a chair.
Well, doesn't she talk about wanting to that she's all signed up for a seminar?
Oh yeah, she is.
Yes,
I think that comes a little. We can mix this up here. She's going. We see that. Then we'll skip ahead here. We just we cut to the Solverson house and again, and he's drinking milk out of the carton. Also, I think the cartoon has changed on the fridge, Sharp, because it's a cat and mouse. I think this time is what I thought I noticed. I feel like I should roll ahead in the video. I know I've got sitting here, or maybe it's still the sheep with the orange jacket on. Nope, there's a cat and a mouse, but the cat, now that I look at it, is orange.
and it has
Interesting.
a collar with a 6 on it.
You shut your mouth. Either way, there's a cat and mouse crayon, like very well colored in, but and Molly makes her dad an ashtray. But we were trying to figure out, does she smoke? Did he lose smoke in the other season? But I can't remember. I don't think he did. Probably not when his wife's got cancer.
I don't think you can smoke on TV at all.
No,
Never.
Mad Men never happened.
No, never.
But coming full circle to John, Peggy's going to a LifeSpring conference, and this is what I do.
This is a great illustration of her character, I think, and what we're about to
Yes, I
run
think
into.
so. And what we're about to learn is that Wellspring was this a private for-profit new age human potential company. Feel free. This is just all off Wikipedia, but they were very similar to this thing called EST, like EST, all lowercase. Which, at the minute I saw that, I was like, "Holy crap!" That's one of the characters in The Americans, also on FX, in the 80s, similar time frame, early 80s, is going to EST, and they're very, very similar, but it was basically, it's all a bunch of hooey. But the bottom line is that she's trying to find some sort of extension and way for herself to be something else and connect with people differently than she's going to get with Ed. So she's got all these things going on.
Her current situation is she's unfulfilled.
Right.
Big time.
We're setting this up that she wants more, and she wants more than she thinks that her husband could give her.
She doesn't even want to be filled with Ed's baby.
Well,
I think the character development for Peggy is definitely the most interesting to me right now. It is being laid on super thick. I think more so than any other character,
Right.
And she's clearly going to be a major runner in this cast.
Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention was I'm a little worried she's not all together, and I don't just mean numbnuts way. And if you read the Wikipedia entry, Lifespring eventually got sued by a bunch of people, and they had at least 30 lawsuits that sought to hold Lifespring responsible for their participants' deaths or their mental damages. The company paid to settle some of those suits before trial, and a few other decisions they lost, the jury decision. But so I think she's got a lot that's going to happen, but I don't think it's all. There's some mixed up pieces upside in that girl's head.
She's paving some roads to a series of unfortunate events.
yeah, and she also seems really kind of desperate, as we find out.
Yep.
Yes.
She's really, she wants to ignore what's actually happening around her.
Exactly.
And wants to focus on the future.
Yep.
Yeah. So Peggy, there's the noise in the garage. We don't have to go to. Everybody saw and knows what happens. But and it was a great scene. I think, with the flashlight and sounding like a deer. And he's like, "Oh, geez, you didn't not dead." But when they kill Rye, this is where I brought up earlier we played you the clip where she hits Rye with the car and drives away. There's that ding, ding, and when they kill Rye, and then nothing. When that happens, there's no dinging. But the minute Peggy comes into the scene and starts talking about, well, we've got to do this, the ding comes back. The ding comes back, and I feel like it's gonna keep happening the same way. Lauren Malvo had various specific stuff that continually happened in the background of his scenes, and I think it's going to be any time that she's either making a poor decision or she's making a decision that's just contrary to like good morals.
So kind of be her audible cue.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. So, and then whatever. There's cut to that scene where they show us what actually happens, and back to the V-shaped lights for visitors.
And we do get confirmation. They specifically show Rye's feet on the hood of the car, and they specifically show that he's missing his shoe. So that's not like in theory kind of thing. That's probably his shoe. It's definitely his shoe.
And I think on the way out to the garage, I've noticed there was or did you confirm it with me here that there's like a poster on the wall going out to the garage, and it's California something,
Hollywood Beach.
And when it comes, and then when it comes back into the house and they show us she's in front of a mirror, then there's the Hollywood Beach thing too. So she's dreaming of a warmer thing, some new age stuff that she's somehow getting involved in and wanting to better herself. So I don't think at this current point Ed is really part of her life.
But who is in California in 1979?
Ronald Reagan,
governor.
Yep. Well, he wasn't anymore.
Oh, is he? Okay.
He was not governor at all.
Fair enough.
I nerded it out.
You do your research, man.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
So that's what Sharpie and I were talking about. We were trying to figure out how Ronald Reagan is tying into this. If he had already not continued on, he didn't continue on with a third term in office, and he got beat out not beat out. Somebody just succeeded him in office, and then he made a run against. Did I say Gerald Ford earlier and didn't win? Is that how? I wasn't born at this point, or I was very little, so I don't remember. Either way, whatever. So But you're right. Yes, bedtime for Bonzo, Ronald Reagan, California, who was also, speaking of conspiracy theories, don't think this matters, just going to tell you, Ronald Reagan was
66 years old?
He was the president at one time and on the board of directors of SAG.
Yes.
And during a rough time, he was ratting out people who he thought were communist sympathizers, speaking of the industrial complex and war and the machine.
So is this
Ronald Reagan.
Current liberal Hollywood's way of getting back at him?
I don't know. Maybe.
We'll find out.
It's the economy, man. So we confirmed the shoe thing, and I also... I can't stop myself. So Sharpie and I both noted that Lou's staring out the window as we cut back to the Solverson residence, that he's tying knots, right?
That's correct.
And he's got like a stretch of rope, and he goes to put it into the bedside stand. So there's something, and we were trying to remember if he was tying knots in that, but the only thing what was it you figured the knots were? The closest thing that I remember seeing in season 1, and you do too?
Just a flash, or a tie back to the Keith Carradine version of Lou Solverson.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a fisherman, he's tying lines,
Yep.
So they lay in bed and they say, whatever, and then eventually he says all the, good night, Mrs. Solverson, good night, whatever. And he said all the ships at sea thing, which made me think about the knots he had just been tying, and I looked it up, and that's actually a reference to Walter Winchell, an American newspaper and radio gossip commentator, and it was a part of his nightly address when he would start his radio show. But for whatever it's worth, Walter Winchell had an incredibly tragic life. Like, everybody around him died or went bonkers or something. So, and that's pretty Coen-esque. Sadness.
Sadness for the win. And to all ships at sea.
So,
which is what Adam Curry says on his podcast, too. Adam Curry, the
that?
inventor of podcasting.
Thanks, Adam.
Adam Curry, the MTV DJ?
That's correct.
VJ?
Yes. He is one of the earliest and most successful long-running podcasters in the history of podcasting.
I thought that would have been Al Gore's territory.
Yeah, he invented the term.
He invented the lockbox internet. So, finally,
here we go.
We get to meet my soft spot guy.
Really?
Who
Do
is
tell. Don't leave us hanging.
Sharpie, who do you think I'm talking about?
Billy's got a big old Billy Boner over there, I think.
Milos Stavros Milos?
Oh, no, definitely not that guy.
Brad Garrett.
Garrett. I love Brad Garrett. I think Brad Garrett's awesome.
Yeah, you've got a Billy Boner over Brad Garrett, all right.
Yeah, I'm just saying. The guy has timing.
Is that what it is?
I think I do, and
he's not that 1 minute man.
I love his deadpan. His face, it's just dopey doggish. It's so great, but turns out there is crime beyond the Fargo Syndicate.
Yeah, and that I didn't put that together. That was the Fargo Syndicate. That they're the family, the Gerhardt family is the Fargo Syndicate. So
yes.
For people who watched the first season and like myself and were very curious about this Fargo Syndicate, that's what it is. It's the Gerhardts.
It's the Gerhardts.
Well, when I think so here's a couple questions now that I'm thinking about that. So, right now we catch up with the Gerhardts and they're like the family farm cottage industry thing, and Brad Garrett's in Kansas City, given basically their old 79 version of a PowerPoint slide presentation,
which is very professional. And it looks like he's giving a presentation to like shareholders. It's like there's like graphics, there's a logo for the proposal, the takeover project or whatever they're calling it, the expansion, the Fargo expansion.
Yeah. They knew we were a city on the grow even back then. But so here's my interesting random thought. is that the Fargo Crime Syndicate, did they maybe hold it off? Because if you think about the Fargo Crime Syndicate from season 1, they were in a really big, nice office building.
And how many people died in that?
Like 20,
like 66, I think.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
or
you're full
16.
Of shit. It was like 22 or something.
Oh, but what's 22 times 3?
66.
That's what it is. 22 times 3, because 3 is how many Gerhardts there are. Gerhardt boys.
Okay,
True.
whatever.
Yes.
Fine, I walked into this shit. I'll deal with it. But Yeah, and we also get to hear the voice of Adam Arkin, I think. Isn't that his voice? Giving the very like
Approved.
in the shadow apocalypse now with the big glasses, like he was just on Casino. Joe Pesci was big glasses. So I don't know. I think, so now we know there's some stuff coming on down. It's gonna happen.
While we're talking about the Gerhardts real quick, I did read a couple of things that I thought were kind of interesting, and this is going to tie back to the Blomquist real briefly, but I'm wondering if we're going to see some conflict between Todd Gerhardt and Ed Blomquist, specifically because of the parallel descriptions they were kind of depicting of both the characters regarding the placement at the table. Where Ed succumbs to the not having his chair at the table due to Peggy Numbnuts' magazines.
Right.
Whereas Dodd, contrary to Ed, so Ed's kind of just like a very passive guy. He just succumbs to that. He just gives up. Whereas Dodd, when he walks into the house and his brother is sitting at the table in his chair, basically forces him out of it so he can sit in that one spot, despite the fact that there are, two other places at the table, or one other place, or whatever.
Yeah,
so that's sort of kind of like an interesting description of each character to use that chair as an example.
Huh.
So I wonder if we'll see some conflict. Yeah, and that's the other thing.
I guess now I think about it, at the Blomquist residence, there was also other chairs at that table too.
Yep.
But more importantly, that's my chair. So hey, before we begin our wrap up here, we have to thank our second sponsor that helps bring you this podcast, and that is audible.com. If you don't know what Audible is, and you're listening to a podcast, that seems almost impossible, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So you got to go to it's audible.com. So here's the deal. You can go to audibletrial.com/Fargo Talks Fargo, right? And if you go there, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial. And when you sign up for that 30-day trial, you get a free audiobook download. So that's the deal. For listeners of Fargo Talks Fargo, Audible is offering that to you. So go to audibletrial.com/Fargo Talks Fargo, sign up for the free trial, get the free book. You get to keep the book as long as you want. You don't have to keep, if you're like, hey, I don't dig it, you still get to keep the book. The book doesn't disappear. Somebody from Audible doesn't show up, knock on your door, and take it back. But I still think you should check it out, because it's actually one of the best things happened to me in a long time, because I usually tend to kind of zone out or fall asleep if I'm reading too much. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and when I do that, this is just an extension of that for me with reading, and this is why I really like doing it. I can do it while I'm driving in the car, or commuting, or going for a walk, or just doing housework around the place, and any kind of thing like that. I love listening to books. And so last week I recommended The Martian by Andy Weir, and this week I'm going to throw it to Sharpie, and he's going to recommend a book to you. So you should go sign up for it. If you don't already have it, go check it out and do it. If you do already have it, hey, maybe go check out this book that Sharpie is about to recommend. So what is your Audible pick this week going to be?
My Audible pick this week is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline.
Oh, boy.
Have you guys read?
Yes, because, wait, wasn't it you that told me to read it? Because I told you to read The Martian. Was this our conversation at the bar?
Yes, it was.
3 months? Oh, my God, no, this was last winter.
Could have been. We don't know.
I think that, because I drank a bunch, and then I walked home from the bar 6 miles. Because I didn't think I needed to drive, and B, because I just couldn't put down The Martian. And because you drove home, and you said, oh, my God, I started Ready Player One.
That's right.
Yes, I forgot. That is the conversation. Wow.
Ready Player One is fantastic. It's gripping. It's a science fiction novel in this sort of dystopian future where basically everybody's living their lives through virtual reality, because that's a big thing, and the world is crumbling, and the only way to get happiness is to live through this virtual reality, and it's a bunch of adventures through this virtual world. It is chock full of 80s references. So if you are an 80s kid, if you're into video games and 80s movies and things like that, I mean, you'll be all over this book. It is so fun. So I highly recommend it. It's a quick listen via audible.com, so check it out. That is my pick of the week, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline.
I will wholeheartedly second that pick, because I will also say this, that somewhere shortly after you made the recommendation to me, I believe, is when Steven Spielberg optioned the rights to that movie.
Yes, and I'm not sure where that's standing right now, because the follow-up, although not related to the story, but Ernest Cline's follow-up after that movie...
Don't say it. What if it's a recommendation?
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead. You're going to talk about
It will
Armada?
be a recommendation. It was Armada, and I've heard that Steven Spielberg has secured the rights to that as well, so I'm not sure which one he's going to go through with. Hopefully both.
Did you already do Armada?
I did.
Me too. John? Neither of these books for John.
Neither.
No. But hey, so also the other thing is if you like Will Wheaton, he is the narrator for Ready Player One. I'm actually going to play a little clip.
Let's see it.
Played all of my favorite news and entertainment vid feeds. Among these was my own channel, Parzival TV, broadcasting obscure eclectic crap, 24/7, 365. Earlier that year, GSS had added a new feature to every Oasis user's account, the POV, personal.
So boom, there you have it. I don't want to play too much because I don't know if we're actually okay to be doing that, but I don't know why you wouldn't, because it's so good and there's a lot of snarky, witty comments, and Will Wheaton does a fantastic job doing that. So our thanks to audible.com for sponsoring that. So if you want to check that out again, go to Audible Trial, audibletrial.com/Fargo Talks Fargo and sign up. And when you do that, you help us out. The same way we want you to also go check out fargobrewing.com. So thank you so much for listening to those ads, and that's what helps make this show possible. So Sharpie, coming into the wrap up, John, what do you guys? So we there's this looming takeover happening. What John? What do you think is going to happen? Like, what do you think's coming next week?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. We've seen the trailers for what's coming up, and I think that there's a lot of intriguing things there. Again, you see this shot where somebody's approaching Ted Danson on the porch, which reminds me of in season 1, where the adult Lou Solverson is on the porch waiting for evil to come.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And again, but the thing that what Sharpie brought up earlier, the idea of the seats at the table, really drove home to me. So far, everybody we've seen is family. And what we're seeing is the interconnectivity of everybody, or rather not the interconnectivity, but nobody is a lone wolf in this one. Nobody is out there on their own. Everybody has a family structure. This is a very family. I don't want to say this is a family show, family oriented, but everybody, all the characters are driven in part by family so far. I think that's a really interesting angle that we're going to see.
That's really interesting, yeah, because in the prior season,
I'm sorry, I said, psst, I love you.
We just need to train people into thinking that every time they hear that, to think of Fargo Brewing.
Papa Top.
That's interesting because, in last season we had Lester, and Lester was kind of a lone wolf, and Lauren Malvo was a lone wolf. Lester started with a family, and we kind of know how that ended up, but we did have a lot of lone wolves, I guess, in the prior season, and I think you're really nailing that theme, John.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thing. So maybe it's the crime syndicate from Kansas City coming in that ruins all that family.
Yeah.
Well, hey, no, wait. Maybe that has something to do with tying back to the overall kind of idea that I was talking about small town togetherness, small town support, Midwestern values, and that when these big things come in, one of the first things to break down is family values and your core desire to support local people.
Well, and this is, I think, really reaching, but family values, of course, certainly was something that Ronald Reagan really championed, and that term didn't even become until...
What was a corn tour?
Before there was a corn tour, I believe Ronald Reagan really kind of gave rise to that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll say this. I'm incredibly optimistic that this season is going to be better than last. And I thought last season was fantastic.
And I think what's really remarkable too is that they did all this in an hour. Last year it was 90 minutes, right, to open?
I think it might have been.
Yeah, and compared to The Walking Dead this year, which opened within a bloated 90 minutes, I think this was a very well packed 60 minutes. I think it foretells very well that this will be a season definitely to watch.
Sharpie, how do you feel?
I mean, that all sounds good to me. I think as far as predictions for next episode, I think we're still a little bit early. I think we got a good body count so far, and I don't think we necessarily have to see a death or a murder of any sort next episode. I don't think we've been introduced enough quite yet to kill anybody off quite yet. But so I won't be surprised if there are no deaths in the next episode. But I'm excited for it. I'm hoping that Shu comes back as soon as possible because I'm excited to start bringing all these paths. I'm excited for all these paths to start crossing each other.
The convergence of all that.
Yeah.
I think Peggy that's the character I'm most interested to see if it goes the way I think it's going to go. I think she's a deeper well of like interesting to me, like where they take it, because she's also the antithesis to the current values.
Her setup leaves her to be the most to gain or lose in that she's planning so much. Her life is not fulfilled now. She wants more. Everybody wants more, of course. All the Gerhardts want more. Her husband wants to run the butcher shop. But I think that she will be the character, you're right, that has the most to gain or lose. She will be the most fluctuating character throughout.
I think that's the character we're going to latch onto for our own emotional roller coaster a little bit. I mean, everybody's obviously going to be behind Lou, but we already know where Lou's going to end up, and we know where Molly's going to end up. We know Lou's going to make it through things all right because we've seen him. We've seen him into the future, and he makes it out, and he raised a good daughter.
We know Lou's going to make the right decisions. We know that Ted Danson's character is going to make the right decisions. I believe that Ed Blomquist will make the right decisions. I think that she's the one character where you're really not sure. Is she gonna do something for herself, or is she gonna do the right thing?
That's correct.
Holy shit, we didn't even talk nearly enough about Floyd Gerhardt. We didn't even talk about the fact that she's taking over a man's role. She's preparing to head of the family. She's a boy named Sue. She's so many things, and so that's.
And what does your man Brad Garrett say about her?
Oh God,
he says something about she's tough, but a girl.
Yeah. So apologize to anyone. So don't flame us up on that one. But I don't know. I think it'll be great. I look forward to coming back next week. I look forward to hopefully having John back on the show later in the season to see where he feels things have gone with this show. If everything plays out well, next week we are going to have Joe Riley on the show, Sharpie's buddy and fellow co-host of Grilling Addiction. And so I guess with all that said, thanks so much to John for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Sharpie's got one.
I just wanted to say, hey, John, did you have anything you want to plug? John Lamb, thanks for supporting us. Thanks for being on the show today. John Lamb is a writer for The Forum, which is the local newspaper in Fargo. Is there anything you'd like to say more about that?
Nope.
All right. Check out John's column.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Inforum.com, and you can see all the news going on here. There's all sorts of interesting things happen. So I'm queuing this up. I don't know if I've got it at the right spot, Sharpie. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to end this with a little tidbit here. The end credits play a little song from the Coen brothers, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Didn't leave nobody but that baby.
Go to sleep, you little babe. Go to sleep, you little babe. Go to sleep, you little babe.
I just wanted to say that was Noah Hawley and Jeff Russo singing.
Your mama's gone away and your daddy's gonna stay. Didn't leave nobody but the babe.
All right, Sharpie, until next week.
Go to sleep, you little babe.
We'll see you then, right, brother?
Go to sleep, you little babe. Everybody's gone in the cotton and the cold. Didn't leave nobody but